The train lurched to a stop in Sunset Ridge, just as Delia Boone's last hope walked off it. She recognized Lucian Cooper the instant his boot hit the platform. 6 years hadn't softened the hard line of his jaw or the way he carried himself, like a man who'd seen too much and trusted too little. He wore the same dark jacket, the same worn hat pulled low. But the gun at his hip was new, and the scar along his jawline told a story she'd never heard. Their eyes met across 20 feet of dust and strangers. His step faltered, just for a breath. Then, he kept walking, moving toward her with the steady purpose of a man who'd made a decision long before he climbed aboard in Denver. Delia's hands twisted in her apron. The letter in her pocket felt like it weighed 10 pounds. 3 sentences. An offer she couldn't accept and couldn't refuse. He stopped 6 feet away, close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, far enough that it felt like a chasm. "You came," she said. Her voice came out steadier than she'd expected. Ranch work did that. Taught you to sound calm when your world was ending. Lucian tipped his hat. The gesture was so familiar it hurt. "Miss Boone," he said, then caught himself. "Mrs. Boone, my condolences on your loss." The formality stung worse than anything else could have. Around them, the platform buzzed with afternoon comers. Freight handlers shouted over crates. A woman scolded her children near the ticket window. The locomotive hissed steam like an impatient beast. Normal life carrying on while Delia's hung by a thread. "You got my letter," she said. It wasn't a question. "I did." And Lucian shifted his weight, looked past her toward the main street where false front buildings baked under September sun. "And I'm here," he said. "That's your answer." Relief and terror hit her in equal measure. She'd written him in desperation 3 weeks ago. One last gamble when the bank's final notice came, and the man who held her dead husband's gambling debts made his intentions clear. "Marry me, or lose everything." Those were Vernon Cass's words, spoken soft as silk and sharp as a blade. She'd chosen a different marriage instead. "We should talk somewhere private," Delia said. "Not here. Your ranch. It's an hour's ride." "I brought the wagon." Lucian picked up his bag, a single worn leather case that said he traveled light and stayed ready to move. Railroad guards learned that fast, or didn't last. "Lead the way," he said. They walked through town without speaking. Delia felt eyes following them. Sunset Ridge was small enough that a stranger drew attention, and Lucian Cooper wasn't exactly subtle. The gun, the scar, the way he scanned every alley and rooftop. People noticed. "Mrs. Boone," called a voice from the mercantile porch. Delia's stomach dropped. Margaret Hollister, president of the church auxiliary and the town's most dedicated gossip. Margaret descended the steps with the determination of a woman on a mission, her gaze fixed on Lucian with open curiosity. "And who might this be?" she asked. Delia opened her mouth, but Lucian spoke first. "Lucian Cooper, ma'am. Friend of the family." The lie came smooth as butter. Friend of the family. Not the man who'd asked her to run away with him 6 years ago. Not the man she'd refused because she'd already accepted Thomas Boone's practical proposal. Not the man whose leaving had felt like losing half her soul. "How nice," Margaret said. Her smile was all teeth. "Will you be staying long, Mr. Cooper?" "That remains to be seen." Margaret's eyes glittered. She'd have that information spread across 3 counties by supper time. "Well," she said. Welcome to Sunset Ridge. We're a close community here. We take care of our own. The warning was clear as church bells. Delia forced a smile. We should be going, she said. Daylight's burning. She steered Lucian toward the livery before Margaret could ask more questions. Behind them, she heard the older woman's skirts rustle as she hurried back toward the mercantile. The damage was already done. You just made yourself famous, Delia said quietly. Lucian's mouth twitched. Not the first time. The livery was blessedly empty, except for old Samuel who ran it. He barely looked up from the harness he was mending as Delia hitched her team. Two steady mares who knew the road home better than she did. Lucian tossed his bag in the wagon bed and climbed up beside her without asking. She took the reins and clicked the team into motion. They left town on the south road. Open country spread out in all directions. Prairie grass gone gold with autumn. Hills rolling toward distant mountains. Sky so big it felt like drowning. A mile out, Lucian finally spoke. Tell me what happened. Delia kept her eyes on the road. Where do you want me to start? Your husband. Thomas. His name felt strange in her mouth now. He'd been gone 8 months, but it felt like years. Thomas was a good man, she said. Honest. Hard-working. He didn't deserve what happened to him. The bankruptcy. She nodded. He borrowed money to expand the ranch. Bought cattle. Hired men. Then the winter of '73 hit, and we lost half the herd. The bank called the loans. Thomas tried to make it right. He went to Denver looking for investors and found a card game instead. Delia's hands tightened on the reins. She'd never written that part in the letter. How did you know? I'm a railroad guard, Lucian said quietly. I hear things. Vernon Cass's name comes up. Usually connected to men who thought they could win back their losses and ended up owing their souls. Thomas died, owing him $12,000. The number hung between them like a gravestone. Lucian swore softly. That's not debt. That's a noose. The bank took everything they could touch, Delia said. Equipment. Livestock. The hands scattered looking for work. All I have left is the land itself and the house. And Cass holds paper that says even that's not really mine until the debt's cleared. What does he want? Delia's throat tightened. Me. He wants me. Marriage or foreclosure. Those are my options. Lucian was quiet for a long moment. The wagon wheels creaked. A hawk circled overhead. Hunting. So you wrote to me, he said. Yes. Why? Because you once asked me to marry you. Because you're the only man I know who might be desperate enough, or crazy enough, to agree to this. Because I had nowhere else to turn. She didn't say that. She said, because I thought you might help. And because I'm offering something in return. Water rights. Lucian's voice sharpened with interest. Delia nodded. Red Mesa Ranch sits on the best water source in 3 counties. Spring-fed creek that never runs dry. The railroad's been buying up land for the new spur line through the territory. They'll need water. Thomas mapped the whole watershed before he died. He was going to sell those rights. Now I will. Split the money with you 50-50 after Cass is paid. And in exchange, you marry me. We stay married long enough to satisfy Cass in the bank. Long enough that it looks real. Then we sell the water rights, split the money, and go our separate ways. You get enough to buy that horse ranch in Montana you used to talk about. I get to keep my land and start over without a husband to lose it for me. Lucian turned to look at her. Really, look at her. Delia felt his gaze like a physical weight. The silence stretched until she wanted to scream. That's cold, he said finally. That's practical. That's not the Delia Boone I knew. The Delia Boone you knew didn't have a choice between slavery and survival. Her voice cracked on the last word. She hated that. Hated showing weakness. Hated that after 6 years he could still make her feel like the girl who'd wanted to run away but couldn't quite make herself leap. Lucian looked away, toward the horizon where the sun was starting its slow fall. How long? He asked. What? How long do we have before Cass makes his move? 3 weeks. He gave me until October 1st. Said he'd be generous and let me mourn the full year before we married. His idea of kindness. Lucian's jaw tightened. She could see the muscle jumping. And the water rights deal. Railroad surveyors coming through in November. Thomas already had preliminary interest. The rights are worth at least $20,000. Maybe more. So we have 6 weeks to pull off a marriage, satisfy Cass, and close a railroad deal. Roughly. And you think this'll work? Delia's throat was tight. I think it's the only chance I have. If you say no, I'll understand. You don't owe me anything. You never did. But if you say yes, I promise you'll walk away with enough money to start over anywhere you want. No strings. No complications. Just a business arrangement between 2 people who used to know each other. Used to know each other. As if 6 years could erase what they'd been. What they'd almost been. Lucian was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, he said, I'll do it. Relief flooded through her so fast she felt dizzy. You will. On one condition. Her stomach clenched. What condition? You tell me the truth. All of it. Every debt. Every threat. Every piece of trouble coming our way. No surprises. No holding back because you think you're protecting me, or because you're too proud to admit how bad it really is. If we're doing this, we're doing it together, or not at all. The words hit harder than she'd expected. Together. As if they were partners. As if this was real. Delia swallowed hard. All right, she said. No surprises. Then you've got yourself a husband, Mrs. Boone. Again, the bitter edge in his voice cut deep, but she didn't flinch. She'd earned it. She'd chosen safety over love once before. And look where it had gotten her. The ranch appeared as they crested the last rise. Red Mesa Ranch. Named for the rust-colored bluff that rose behind the property like a guardian. The house sat in a little valley, protected from the worst of the winter wind. Small, but solid. 2 rooms downstairs, 1 up. Barn that needed new shingles. Corral that needed mending. Garden gone to weeds. Home. What was left of it? Delia pulled the wagon up to the house. Lucian jumped down and offered his hand to help her. She took it without thinking. His palm was calloused and warm. The touch lasted 1 second too long, and they both pulled away fast. She unhitched the team while he grabbed his bag. The mares knew the routine and headed for the barn without prompting. Delia followed to give them feed and water. Lucian trailed behind, studying everything with the careful attention of a man assessing threats and exits. You're alone out here, he said. Since April. After Thomas died, the hands left. Couldn't pay them. That's not safe. I have a shotgun. That's not enough. Delia forked hay into the manger with more force than necessary. It's what I have, she said. I'm not helpless. Didn't say you were. But Cass knows you're alone. That puts you at a disadvantage. She hated that he was right. Hated more that she'd spent the last 4 months jumping at every sound after dark. Vernon Cass hadn't made direct threats, but his men had ridden past the property twice. Slow. Watching. Making sure she knew they were there. Well, she said. Now I'm not alone. That's the point. They walked back to the house in the falling dusk. Delia lit the lamps while Lucian set his bag by the door. The main room was kitchen and parlor combined. Clean, but sparse. Most of the furniture had been sold to pay debts. You hungry? She asked. I could eat. She pulled out cornbread left from breakfast and cold ham from the pantry. Set it on the table with butter and the last jar of pickles. Not much, but it was what she had. They ate in awkward silence. Outside the window, the sky turned from gold to violet to deep blue. Coyotes started their evening song. The wind picked up, rattling the loose shingle on the roof. The one Thomas had meant to fix before he left for Denver. That needs repair, Lucian said. Delia followed his gaze. I know. I tried. I'm not tall enough to reach it safely. I'll fix it tomorrow. You don't have to. Yes, I do. If we're married, I'm responsible for the property. Might as well make it look convincing. Right. Convincing. The word sat between them like a stone. This whole thing was about convincing people. Convincing Cass. Convincing the bank. Convincing the town that their marriage was real enough to matter. But sitting across from Lucian in the lamplight, watching him eat her food at her table, Delia felt the old pull. The thing that had drawn her to him 6 years ago, when he was just a young drover passing through, and she was a rancher's daughter who'd never been anywhere. He'd offered her the world, and she'd chosen a mortgage. Where do I sleep? Lucian asked. Delia blinked. She'd been so focused on getting him here, she hadn't thought through the practical details. The upstairs room, she said. It's small, but there's a bed. Where do you sleep? Down here. There's a bedroom off the kitchen. He nodded. That works. We'll need to make it look shared when people come around, but for now, that's fine. Right. Of course. Heat crawled up her neck. She stood and started clearing dishes. Lucian rose to help, and their hands collided, reaching for the same plate. She pulled back. He steadied the plate and set it on the counter. The air between them felt charged. I should turn in, Delia said. Early start tomorrow. I need to ride into town and file the marriage license. Already. We just got here. Can't wait. Cass is watching. The sooner we're legally married, the sooner he has to back off. I'll tell the clerk we had a quiet ceremony in Denver. You're a railroad guard relocating to the territory. We reconnected and decided not to waste time. You've thought this through. I've had 3 weeks to think about nothing else. Lucian studied her face. His expression was unreadable in the lamplight. All right, he said. We'll do it your way. But Delia. She looked up. His eyes were serious. Tired and serious, and something else she couldn't name. If this goes wrong, he said quietly, if Cass doesn't accept it, or the bank finds a loophole, or the railroad deal falls through, I need you to promise me something. What? You'll let me get you out. No arguments. No pride. You'll get on a horse and ride, and not look back. Understand? Her throat tightened. That's not the deal. That's my condition. The real one. Money's good. Land's good. But if it comes down to your safety or this ranch, you choose safety. Promise me. She wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she'd fought too hard to give up now. But the look in his eyes stopped her. This mattered to him. Really mattered. In a way that made her chest ache. I promise, she said. Good. He turned and headed for the stairs. Delia heard his boots on the treads. The door opening upstairs. The creak of the bed frame as he tested it. She stood alone in the kitchen, with dirty dishes, and a loose shingle rattling overhead, and a bargain that felt more dangerous than any debt. Morning came cold and clear. Delia woke to the sound of hammering. She dressed fast and went outside. Lucian was already on the roof, shirtless despite the chill, driving nails into the loose shingle with steady precision. The rising sun caught the muscles of his back and shoulders. He'd filled out since she'd seen him last. Harder. Stronger. The work of a man who'd spent 6 years surviving. You're up early, she called. He glanced down. Railroad habit. Train robberies happen at dawn. He finished the last nail and climbed down the ladder, grabbed his shirt from the porch rail and shrugged into it. Delia tried not to watch and failed. I'll make breakfast, she said. Then we ride to town. Sounds good. I'll feed the horses. They moved around each other like dancers learning a new pattern. Careful. Polite. Neither touching nor quite avoiding touch. By the time they sat down to eggs and coffee, the sun was full up and the day already felt complicated. The ride to town was quieter than yesterday. They both knew what was coming. Filing a marriage license in Sunset Ridge meant questions and scrutiny and Margaret Hollister's inevitable commentary. But it had to be done. The clerk's office was in the same building as the land office, small and stuffy with file cabinets lining every wall. The clerk was a thin man named Porter, who'd been filing paperwork since before Delia was born. He looked up when they entered. Mrs. Boone, he said. Then his gaze shifted to Lucian, and his eyebrows climbed. And guessed. Delia pulled the folded form from her pocket. She'd filled it out last night. Names, ages, residence, date of ceremony. All lies, except the names. I need to file this, she said. Porter took the paper, squinted at it through wire-rimmed spectacles. His expression shifted from confusion to shock to something like scandal. This is a marriage license, he said. Yes. For you. Yes. To this man. Lucian stepped forward. Lucian Cooper. Pleased to meet you. Porter ignored him. Kept staring at Delia. Mrs. Boone. You've been widowed less than a year. 8 months. This is highly irregular. Delia straightened her spine. My personal life is my business, Mr. Porter. The law requires 6 months. It's been 8. File the license. But Porter wasn't finished. He looked at Lucian with open suspicion. Where are you from, Mr. Cooper? Denver most recently. Before that, Montana Territory. I'm a railroad guard. And you knew Mrs. Boone how? We met years ago. Before her first marriage. We corresponded, and when I heard about her loss, I came to offer my condolences. Things progressed from there. The lies came smooth, and practiced. Delia wondered how many times Lucian had talked his way past suspicious authorities. Porter's mouth pursed like he'd bitten something sour. He looked at the form again. "There's a waiting period," he said. "No, there isn't. Not for filed licenses. You're thinking of the posting requirement, and we met that in Denver. I'll need proof. We have the certificate from the efficient." Delia pulled another paper from her pocket. This one was real enough. She'd paid a lawyer in town $50 to backdate it. Money she couldn't afford but necessary for the lie. Porter examined it with the enthusiasm of a man inspecting a dead rat. Finally, he sighed. "Fine," he said. "I'll file it. But people are going to talk, Mrs. Boone." "Let them talk," Delia said. They left before Porter could find another objection. Outside the office, Delia took a shaky breath. That was the easy part, she said. Lucian's hand settled briefly on her lower back, steadying her. "Easy," he said. "I'd hate to see hard." The touch was gone before she could react, but she felt it all the way to her bones. They walked toward the Mercantile. Delia needed flour and coffee. Lucian said he'd look at tools. They separated inside the store, and she was alone when Margaret Hollister appeared at the end of the aisle like a well-dressed ghost. "Delia," Margaret said. Her smile was sharp. "I heard the most extraordinary rumor this morning." Delia's fingers tightened on the flour sack. "Did you? They're saying you married that railroad man. The one who arrived yesterday. News travels fast." Margaret stepped closer. Her perfume was overwhelming in the small space. "Delia, dear," she said. Her voice dripped false sympathy. "I know you've been through a terrible ordeal. But remarrying so soon, people will think you didn't love Thomas at all." The words hit like a slap. Delia's vision narrowed. "I loved my husband," she said quietly. "And my second marriage is none of your concern." "But it is," Margaret insisted. "We're a community. We have standards. What you're doing, it's not decent. It's not proper. And that man, he's dangerous. Anyone can see it. He's my husband. For now. But when he takes what he wants and leaves, you'll be worse off than before. Men like that don't stay." Delia set the flour down, carefully, because if she didn't, she'd throw it. "Men like what, Margaret?" "Dangerous men. Violent men. He wears a gun like he knows how to use it. He's a railroad guard. Of course he wears a gun. There are rumors about him. People are saying he's connected to the coal gang, that he's wanted in Montana. That's a lie. Is it?" Margaret's eyes glittered. "Because Vernon Cass was in here this morning, asking questions about your new husband. And Vernon doesn't ask questions unless he's worried." Delia's heart kicked hard. Cass knew. Of course he knew. She'd been a fool to think she could file a marriage license without him hearing within the hour. "Vernon Cass can go to hell," Delia said. Margaret gasped. "Delia," she hissed. "Language. I mean it. He has no claim on me and no right to ask questions about my life. And neither do you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have shopping to finish." She grabbed the flour and pushed past Margaret without waiting for a response. Her hands were shaking. She found Lucian near the hardware and grabbed his arm. "We need to go," she said. He took one look at her face and didn't argue. They paid for their goods and left. Delia didn't breathe easy until they were out of town and back on the open road. What happened? Lucian asked. She told him. About Margaret. About the rumors. About Cass asking questions. Lucian's expression darkened. He's moving faster than I expected. What do? We stick to the plan. Let him ask questions. Let him hear we're married. Let him think he's lost. Then we wait and see what he does. And if he doesn't back down, then we deal with it. But Delia, I need to tell you something. She looked at him. His jaw was tight. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead. Those rumors Margaret mentioned, he said, about Montana. They're not entirely wrong. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean? I'm not wanted. Not technically. But I did ride with men who are. The Cole gang. I was young and stupid. And I needed money. I thought they were just freight robbers. By the time I realized what they really were, it was too late to leave without consequences. How did you get out? I killed one of them. Frank Cole, the leader's brother. He tried to shoot a railroad clerk during a holdup and I stopped him. The gang scattered after that. Some were caught. Some disappeared. I changed my name and took work as a guard. Been running from my own shadow ever since. Delia's hands tightened on the reins. Why are you telling me this? Because if Cass digs deep enough, he'll find it. And when he does, he'll use it. I wanted you to hear it from me first. If you want to back out now, I'll understand. I'll leave tonight. You can say I abandoned you. File for annulment. Find another way. She was quiet for a long time. The wagon rolled through open country. The sun climbed higher. A jackrabbit bolted across the road. I'm not backing out, she said finally. Lucian looked at her. You sure? I'm sure. We all have things we're running from. You're not the only one with a past. What's yours? Delia swallowed. I chose safety over love once, and it destroyed me. I won't do it again. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Lucian's expression shifted. Something softened in his eyes. Delia, he said quietly, don't. Please, this is business. That's all. Is it? It has to be. Because if it's more, you might have to admit you made a mistake 6 years ago. She flinched. That's not fair. Fair has nothing to do with it. They rode the rest of the way in silence. But something had changed. A crack in the wall they'd both built. Small, but present. Dangerous in ways neither of them wanted to admit. That night, Delia made stew from the last of the salt pork. They ate at the table and talked about practical things. Fence repairs. Garden plans for spring. How to approach the railroad surveyor when he came. Normal married conversation. If you didn't count the fact that they were strangers sleeping in separate rooms. After dinner, Lucian went out to check the barn. Delia washed dishes and tried not to think about the fact that Vernon Cass now knew she was married and was probably plotting his next move. She was drying the last plate when she heard hoofbeats. 3 horses. Coming fast. Delia grabbed the shotgun from beside the door and stepped onto the porch. Lucian appeared from the barn direction, gun already drawn. He moved to her side without a word. The riders came into the yard at a canter, pulled up hard 20 feet from the house. 3 men. 2 she didn't recognize. The third made her blood run cold. Vernon Cass. He was a big man. broad-shouldered and thick through the middle. Expensive suit that looked out of place on the frontier. Clean-shaven face and cold eyes that missed nothing. "Mrs. Boone," he said. His voice was smooth as oil. "I heard you got married. Thought I'd come offer my congratulations." Lucian stepped forward. His gun stayed pointed at the ground, but his meaning was clear. "This is private property," he said. "State your business, or leave." Cass smiled. "And you must be the new husband." "Lucian Cooper. I've been hearing interesting things about you." "Have you?" "Oh yes. Montana. The Cole gang. The dead man you left behind. Quite a history." "That's old news." "Is it?" "Because I think the territorial marshal might find it very current if someone were to send him a detailed letter. With your location. And descriptions. And perhaps a signed witness statement or two." Delia felt Lucian tense beside her. "That's blackmail," she said. "That's business," Cass replied. "See, Mrs. Boone, you owe me $12,000. That debt doesn't disappear just because you found yourself a husband. Especially a husband who's one telegram away from a noose." "The debt died with Thomas," Delia said. "You have no legal claim. I have his signed marker. That's claim enough. Not in a court." Cass's smile widened. "But we're not in a court, are we? We're out here, where law is what men with guns say it is. And Mrs. Boone, I have more guns than you." The two men flanking him shifted. Both wore gun belts. Both looked like they knew how to use them. "What do you want?" Lucian said. Cass looked at him, then at Delia, then back at Lucian. "I want what's owed," he said. $12,000. Or the ranch. Or both. But since you've complicated things with this marriage, I'll make you a new offer. Walk away. Tonight. Leave the lady to handle her own affairs. Do that, and I'll forget everything I know about Montana. You get to stay free and breathing. She gets to keep me happy. Everybody wins. Except Delia. She's a big girl. She'll survive." "No," Lucian said. The word was flat. Final. Cass's smile faded. "No," he repeated. "You're making a mistake. I've made bigger." Cass stared at him, measuring, calculating. Then he shrugged. "All right," he said. "Your funeral. You have until October 1st. That's 3 weeks. After that, I'm filing foreclosure papers and calling the marshal. You'll lose the ranch and your freedom. Think hard about whether she's worth it." He wheeled his horse and rode out. His men followed. The sound of hoofbeats faded into the night. Delia realized she was shaking. The shotgun felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Lucian took it from her gently and set it aside. "You should have taken his offer," she said. "Not a chance. Lucian, he'll destroy you. He'll try. This isn't your fight." "Yes, it is. I made it mine when I agreed to marry you." She looked up at him. His face was hard in the lamplight spilling from the door, but his eyes were gentle, steady. The eyes of a man who'd made a choice and wouldn't be moved. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" "Because 6 years ago I asked you to run away with me, and you chose safety instead. You chose a good man with a stable life and a future you could count on. And look where it got you. Alone and threatened and about to lose everything. So maybe it's time someone chose you back. Maybe it's time someone stayed. Delia's throat closed. Tears burned her eyes, but she blinked them back. Crying wouldn't help. Crying wouldn't fix anything. But having Lucian Cooper stand beside her with a gun and a promise, that might. The next 2 weeks were the longest of Delia's life. They fell into a rhythm. Lucian repaired fences and patched the barn roof. Delia worked the garden and started planning for spring planting. They cooked together, ate together, talked about the railroad deal and what they'd do with the money. They didn't talk about Vernon Cass, but his presence hung over everything like a storm cloud. Twice more his men rode past the property, watching, waiting. Once Delia found fresh tracks near the creek that didn't belong to any of their animals. Lucian started sleeping on the couch downstairs, just in case. He never said it, but she knew he was standing guard. She should have felt safer. Instead, she felt more aware of him every second. The way he moved through the house like he belonged there. The way he anticipated her needs before she spoke them. The way he looked at her sometimes when he thought she wasn't watching. Like he was remembering. Like she was remembering. They were in the barn one afternoon when it finally broke. Delia was mucking stalls. Lucian was oiling tack. Normal work. Then, her pitchfork handle snapped, and she stumbled backward straight into him. He caught her, arms around her waist, steadying her. She turned in his grip, and suddenly, they were face to face. Close enough that she could see the flecks of silver in his eyes. Close enough to feel his breath. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be." His voice was rough. His hands were still on her waist. She should step back. Should put distance between them. Should remember this was business. She didn't move. "Delia," he said. "Don't. Please. I need to say this." "Then say it." "I never stopped. 6 years. Different towns. Different jobs. Different women even. Trying to forget. But I never stopped thinking about you. About what we could have been." Her heart hammered. "Stop," she whispered. "Why?" "It's true. Because this isn't real. Because we're pretending. Because when this is over, you'll leave, and I'll be alone again. And I can't. I can't do this. What if I don't leave?" "You will. Everyone does." "Not everyone. Not me. You did once. You sent me away. You chose another man. You stood on your father's porch and told me you couldn't marry a drifter with no prospects and no future. Those were your words." Tears spilled over. She'd said those things, hating every syllable. But her father had just died, and the ranch was drowning in debt, and Thomas Boone had offered security. And she'd been so scared. "I was wrong," she said. "I was so wrong." Lucian's grip tightened. His forehead dropped to rest against hers. "Then prove it," he said. "How?" "Stop treating this like a business arrangement. Stop sleeping in separate rooms. Stop pretending you don't feel what I feel. Lucian, I'm not asking forever. I'm asking now. Whatever time we have. However this ends. Let it be real while it lasts." She should say no. Should protect herself. Should remember that hope was dangerous, and love had already cost her everything. She kissed him instead. His response was immediate. hungry. 6 years of waiting compressed into one moment. They collided like thunder and lightning. His hands in her hair, her fingers digging into his shoulders, the pitchfork clattering forgotten to the floor. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. "Upstairs," Delia said. "Now. Right now." They made it to the house. Barely. Up the narrow stairs to his room, fell onto the bed together, and let everything else burn away. Afterward, they lay tangled in sheets. Sun slanting through the window, his hand tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. "This changes things," Lucian said quietly. "I know. We can't go back to business now." "I don't want to." He turned his head to look at her. "What do you want?" Delia took a breath. "You," she said. "I want you. I want this. For however long we have. That's not enough. It's all I can promise." Lucian sat up. The sheet pooled at his waist. "Delia," he said. "I didn't come here for a temporary arrangement. I came because I never got over you, and I saw a chance to have what we should have had 6 years ago. I want to stay. I want to build something real. I want to wake up next to you for the rest of my life." Her chest felt too tight. "What about Montana? What about your horse ranch?" "Montana was never about horses. It was about getting far enough away that I could stop thinking about the woman who broke my heart. But I'm done running. I'm done pretending I want something other than this. So you need to decide. Are we doing this for real? Or are we just filling time?" Delia sat up, clutched the sheet to her chest. Her heart was racing. This was too much, too fast. They still had Vernon Cass breathing down their necks, and a railroad deal to close, and 3 weeks until everything exploded. But Lucian was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So am I. What if this doesn't work? Then we'll fail together. But Delia, I'd rather fail with you than succeed alone." A sob broke free. She pressed her hand to her mouth, but couldn't stop it. Lucian pulled her into his arms, let her cry against his chest, held her like she was something precious. "I choose you," she said when she could breathe again. "I choose this. For real." "Good," he said. "Because you're stuck with me now. Promise. Promise." They sealed it with another kiss. Slower, this time. Certain. The world outside still had teeth. Cass was still a threat. The deadline was still coming. But for the first time in 8 months, Delia felt like she had something worth fighting for. She just hoped it would be enough. That night at dinner, they made new plans. Not a marriage of convenience anymore. A real partnership. They'd face Cass together. Close the railroad deal together. Build the ranch back together. "Tomorrow I'll ride into town," Lucian said. "See if I can find men willing to hire on. We'll need help if we're going to get this place running before winter. And I'll check with the bank," Delia said. "Make sure the license is properly recorded. The more official it looks, the less room Cass has to maneuver. We should also talk to a lawyer. See what legal protections we have against foreclosure. Jacob Rains. He's in Sunset Ridge. He helped Thomas with the original land filing. I'll visit him tomorrow, too." They were still talking when they heard riders. Again. But this time, it was just one horse. Coming fast and hard. Delia's stomach clenched. Lucien grabbed his gun and moved to the door. The rider pulled up in the yard. A young man, maybe 20, covered in dust and breathing hard. "Message for Mrs. Boone," he gasped. Delia stepped out. "I'm Mrs. Boone." The boy handed her a folded paper. "From Mr. Cass," he said, then wheeled his horse and took off like demons were chasing him. Delia unfolded the note. Her blood turned to ice. "What is it?" Lucien asked. She handed it to him. He read it once, then again. His jaw tightened. The note was short. 3 sentences. "Your husband is a wanted man. Tomorrow I'm sending a telegram to the territorial marshal with his location and description. If you want to save him, come to my office in town by noon tomorrow. Alone. You're not going." Lucien said. "I have to." "No. It's a trap. He'll force you into something you can't take back. And if I don't go, he'll destroy you. They'll hang you for killing Frank Cole. I won't let that happen. Delia, listen to me." "No, you listen." She grabbed his arm. Her fingers dug in hard. "You stayed for me. You chose me. Now, I'm choosing you. I'm going to that meeting, and I'm going to find out what he really wants. What he wants is you without me in the picture. Maybe. Or maybe he just wants money, and he's using this as leverage. Either way, I have to try. Not alone." His voice was steel. Delia met his eyes. "Fine," she said. "Not alone. You can come. But you stay out of sight. If he sees you, it's over. I don't like this. I don't either. But we're out of options." They left at dawn. Reached Sunset Ridge by mid-morning. Delia went into town. Lucien stayed at the edge, watching from an alley between the feed store and the saloon. Vernon Cass's office was above the bank. Plush carpet. Dark wood furniture. Paintings on the walls. The man had money and wanted everyone to know it. He looked up when she entered. Smiled. "Mrs. Cooper now, isn't it?" he said. "Or do you prefer Mrs. Boone? What do you want, Vernon?" Straight to business. "I always admired that about you." He gestured to a chair. "Sit." "I'll stand." "Suit yourself." He leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers. "Here's the situation," he said. "Your husband is a wanted man. I have evidence. I have witnesses. 1 telegram and he's finished. Now, I'm a reasonable man. I don't want to see anyone hang unnecessarily. So I'm prepared to make a deal." "What deal?" "You give me the ranch. Full deed transfer. Legal and binding. In exchange, I forget everything I know about Lucien Cooper. He gets to ride out of here a free man. You get to start over somewhere else with a clear conscience. And if I refuse, then he hangs, and you lose the ranch to foreclosure anyway. This way at least he lives." Delia's hands clenched. "That's extortion. That's options. You have until sunset to decide. After that, the telegram goes out." He stood, walked to the window, looked down at the street below. "I always liked you, Delia," he said quietly. "Thomas was a fool. He had a good woman and a solid property, and he threw it away on cards and pride. I would have treated you better. I still would. Walk away from Cooper. Give me the ranch. I'll cancel the debt, and we'll call it even. You can start fresh." Maybe in a year or two, we can revisit the idea of a real partnership. Her stomach turned. A partnership. He meant marriage. He'd meant it all along. I'm already married, she said, to a dead man walking. She turned to leave. His voice stopped her at the door. Sunset. Delia, that's all you have. She walked out. Down the stairs. Into the street. Lucian appeared beside her like a shadow. What did he say? He asked. She told him. All of it. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, his expression was carved from stone. We're not giving him the ranch, he said. And I'm not letting him hang you. Then we run. Right now. Forget the railroad deal. Forget the ranch. We get on horses and ride hard for the border. Start over in California or Oregon. Somewhere far from here. Delia stopped walking, turned to face him, and spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders, waiting for someone to recognize you, waiting for the law to catch up. That's not living, Lucian. That's just running. So what do? We fight. How? He has all the leverage. Not all of it. Delia's mind was racing, working through possibilities. We have one thing he doesn't. What? Time. He gave us until sunset. That's 8 hours. Enough to make moves he won't see coming. I'm listening. We go to Jacob Rains. File paperwork making you co-owner of the ranch. Legal and binding. Then we go to the telegraph office and send our own message. To the railroad. Tell them we're ready to close the water rights deal immediately. Today. Before November. Emergency sale. They'll pay less, but it'll still be enough to cover the debt, and then some. And Cass. If we can pay off the debt, he has no claim on the ranch. And if you're legal co-owner, he can't force me to sell without your consent. The Montana thing is still dangerous, but if we have money, we can hire lawyers. Real ones. Fight it properly. That's a lot of ifs. It's all we have. Lucian studied her face. Then he smiled. It was fierce and proud. All right, he said. Let's do it. They moved fast. Jacob Rains was skeptical, but agreed to file the co-ownership papers for a hefty fee. The telegraph operators sent their message to the railroad's Denver office with urgent priority. Then, they waited. 3 hours. The longest 3 hours of Delia's life. The reply came at 2 in the afternoon. Railroad surveyor would arrive on the evening train. Prepared to close deal immediately. Offer price $15,000. Final. It was less than they'd hoped, but more than enough. Delia and Lucian went back to Rains's office, drew up the sale papers, had them notarized and ready. Then, they waited at the train station. The surveyor was a thin man named Patterson. All business. He looked over the watershed maps, inspected the documents, asked hard questions about water flow and seasonal variation. Finally, he nodded. This is acceptable, he said. We'll need a full survey before final payment, but I'm authorized to offer $10,000 today, and the remainder upon confirmation. That work for you? Yes, Delia said. Patterson pulled out a cashier's draft. Signed it. Handed it over. Pleasure doing business, he said. Just like that. $10,000. Enough to pay Vernon Cass in full and have money left over. They went straight to the bank, deposited the draft, withdrew cash. then walked to Cass's office. He was still there, sitting at his desk. He looked up when they entered. His smile faded when he saw the bag Lucian was carrying. "What's this?" he asked. "Your money," Delia said. $12,000, payment in full for Thomas Boone's debt. Counted and witnessed. "We have receipts." She dumped the bag on his desk. Cash spilled out. Cass stared at it like it might bite him. "Where did you get this?" he said slowly. "That's none of your business. The debt is paid. In full. You have no further claim on Red Mesa Ranch or anything else." Cass's face darkened. He looked at Lucian. "And what about him?" "Still a wanted man, still one telegram away from a noose." Lucian smiled. It wasn't friendly. "Send your telegram," he said. "I'll take my chances with the law. Because here's the thing, Cass. I might hang. But before I do, I'll make sure everyone knows you tried to extort a widow. That you used her dead husband's debts to force her into marriage. That you threatened an innocent man to get your way. How do you think that'll play with the good people of Sunset Ridge?" Cass's jaw worked. He looked from Lucian to Delia and back. Finally he laughed. It was bitter and sharp. "You think you've won," he said. "We paid what was owed," Delia said. "That's all that matters. For now. But people like you don't stay lucky forever. Something will break. Some new debt. Some new disaster. And when it does, I'll be waiting." "And when it does, I'll be waiting. Then, you'll be waiting a long time." They left, walked out into the evening sun. Behind them, Cass's office stayed dark and silent. Delia didn't breathe easy until they were back at the ranch. Then she collapsed onto the porch steps and started laughing. Half hysteria, half relief. Lucian sat beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. "We did it," she said. "We actually did it. You did it. That plan was all you. We did it together." He kissed the top of her head. "Yeah," he said. "We did." The next week they hired 2 ranch hands. Good men who needed work and didn't ask too many questions. Started rebuilding the cattle herd with the remaining railroad money. Ordered supplies for winter. Life started to feel almost normal. Then one morning a rider came from town. Young deputy. Nervous. Asked for Lucian by name. Delia's heart stopped. This was it. The Montana warrant. The hanging rope. Everything they'd fought for collapsing anyway. But the deputy just handed Lucian an envelope. "Message from the territorial marshal," he said. Then left. Lucian opened it. Read it once. Then looked at Delia with an expression she couldn't read. "What is it?" she asked. "It's over," he said. "The warrant. The Montana thing." Frank Cole's brother testified that the shooting was self-defense. Protection of a civilian. The marshal's office reviewed the case and cleared me. Officially. It's done. He handed her the paper. Official letterhead. Legal language. But the meaning was clear. Lucian Cooper was a free man. Delia threw her arms around him, held on tight. He buried his face in her hair, and she felt him shake. "It's really over," he said. "It's really over." They stood there a long time. The autumn wind blew cold across the prairie. Inside the house, the stove crackled. The ranch spread out around them, small and stubborn and theirs. That night, they lay in bed together. Their bed now. Not his room or her room. Theirs. "What do we do now?" Delia asked. Lucian's hand found hers in the dark. "We build," he said. "We stay. We make this place something we can be proud of. And in the spring, we get married again. For real this time. In the church, with the whole town watching. So everyone knows this wasn't business. This was always real." Delia smiled against his shoulder. "I'd like that," she said. "Me too." They fell asleep tangled together. Safe. Free. Home. Winter came hard and cold. Snow piled against the barn. Ice locked the creek for weeks. But the ranch held. The cattle survived. The house stayed warm. Delia and Lucian worked side by side, feeding animals, chopping wood, planning for spring. They argued sometimes. About money, about ranch management, about whose turn it was to cook. But they always made up. Usually in the big bed upstairs. Sometimes in the barn when the hands were out checking fences. Once in the kitchen when the bread was supposed to be rising. Life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. In March, the railroad sent the final payment for the water rights. 5,000 more. Enough to expand the herd and hire another hand. Enough to breathe easy. And in April, when the prairie turned green and the creek ran high with snowmelt, they got married again. The church was full. The whole town came. Even Margaret Hollister, though she spent the entire service looking like she'd swallowed a lemon. Delia wore a new dress, cream silk with lace at the collar. Lucian wore a black suit and looked so handsome it hurt. The preacher said the words. They said their vows. And this time when Lucian kissed her, it wasn't a performance. It was a promise. Afterward, there was a dance at the town hall. Food and music and people laughing. Delia danced with Lucian until her feet ached. Then danced some more. Near midnight, they slipped away. Rode back to the ranch under a sky full of stars. The house looked small and solid. Lamplight glowing in the windows. Smoke curling from the chimney. Home. Lucian helped her down from the wagon, swept her into his arms despite her laughing protests, carried her across the threshold like a proper bride. Inside, he set her down gently, kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her mouth. "I love you," he said. The words were easy now, natural, true. "I love you too," Delia said. "And I'm so glad you came back. I was always going to come back. You just gave me a good excuse." She smiled, pulled him close. They swayed together in the lamplight. No music but their heartbeats. No audience but each other. Outside, the wind sang across the prairie. The stars wheeled overhead. The ranch settled into sleep. And inside, two people who'd been lost found each other again. Built something real from the ashes of broken dreams. Chose love over safety. Chose together over alone. Chose, in the end, exactly right. The years that followed were good ones. Not easy. Ranch life never was. But good. They expanded the herd, built a new barn, added a room to the house for the baby that came 2 years after the wedding. A girl with Delia's dark hair and Lucian's steady eyes. They named her Hope, because that's what they'd found when they'd both stopped running. Hope. And home. And each other. Vernon Cass left town the year after the wedding. Some said he went to California. Others said he died broke in a Denver boarding house. Delia didn't care. He was gone, and that was enough. The railroad spur line was finished. Sunset Ridge grew. New families moved in. The church got a bell. The school got a second room. Red Mesa Ranch became known as one of the most solid operations in the territory. People pointed to it as proof that hard work and determination could overcome anything. But Delia and Lucian knew better. It wasn't just work. It was choosing each other. Every day. In good times and hard. In drought and plenty. In fear and joy. Choosing love when it would have been easier to choose safety. Choosing together when alone was simpler. Choosing, always, the truth that had been waiting 6 years to be claimed. Some summer evenings they'd sit on the porch after supper. Watch the sun set behind the mesa. Hold hands like courting youngsters. "Do you ever regret it?" Delia would ask sometimes. "Giving up Montana. Staying here." And Lucian would smile. Pull her close. Say the same thing every time. Montana was never the dream. You were. This was. All of it. Then he'd kiss her. Slow and sweet. While the prairie wind sang, and their daughter played in the yard, and the life they'd built stretched out around them, solid and real. Not perfect, but theirs, and that was more than enough. On their 5th anniversary, Lucian gave her a gift, a small wooden box, hand-carved with her initials. Inside was a folded paper. She opened it, carefully. It was the letter she'd written him 5 years ago, the desperate plea that had brought him back. He'd kept it all this time. "Why?" she asked. "Because it was the bravest thing you ever did," he said. Asking for help. Admitting you needed someone. Taking a chance on the man you'd sent away. "I keep it to remember that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just reaching out when you're scared." Delia's eyes filled. She set the box aside and climbed into his lap, wrapped her arms around his neck. "I'd do it again," she said. "Every time. In every life. I'd choose you." "Good," Lucian said. "Because I'm not going anywhere. Promise. Promise." They sealed it with a kiss. Outside, their daughter called for them to come see the new calf. Life going on. Normal and precious and hard won. That night after Hope was asleep, they lay in bed together, talking about nothing and everything. Plans for next year. Whether to expand the herd or focus on horses. What to plant in the garden. Married conversation. Easy and comfortable. But underneath it was the thing that never faded. The pull that had brought them together twice. The love that had survived rejection and time and every obstacle thrown at them. Delia fell asleep with her head on Lucian's chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady as the creek, constant as the stars. And she knew, bone deep and certain, that this was what home felt like. Not a place, not a building, not even the land. Home was this. The man who'd chosen her. The life they'd built. The daughter sleeping down the hall. the ranch spreading out around them in the darkness. Home was the choice to stay, to fight, to love, even when it was hard. And she'd made that choice. They both had. Every day, for the rest of their lives, they'd keep making it. Together. Years turned to decades. Their hair went gray. Hope grew up and married a good man from town. Gave them grandchildren who ran wild across the ranch just like their mother had. The land stayed in the family. Red Mesa Ranch. Built on water and hope, and second chances. Delia and Lucian grew old together, still working the ranch, still bickering over small things, still reaching for each other in the night. One evening, late in life, they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The same porch where they'd celebrated their wedding night. The same view they'd watched 1,000 times. Lucian's hand found hers, their fingers laced together with the ease of long practice. "Do you remember?" Delia said. "The day you stepped off that train?" "Every second," Lucian replied. "I was so scared." "I know. I thought I was going to lose everything. You almost did. But I didn't. Because you stayed." Lucian turned to look at her. The sunset caught in his eyes, turning them gold. "Because you asked," he said. "Because you took a chance. Because you were brave enough to admit you needed help. We saved each other," Delia said. "Yeah. We did." They sat in comfortable silence as the light faded. The prairie stretched out before them, gold and green and eternal. The ranch was quiet. The day's work done. Grandchildren tucked in bed in the house behind them. Life going on as it always had. Steady. Sure. No regrets, Delia said. Lucian squeezed her hand. Not one. And it was true. Every hard year, every sacrifice, every moment of doubt, it had all been worth it. For this. For them. For the life they'd built from the wreckage of the one that came before. The stars came out one by one. The wind carried the scent of sage and grass. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote sang. And on the porch of Red Mesa Ranch, two people who'd found each other twice sat together, holding hands, watching the sky, grateful for every moment they'd been given, still choosing each other,